Dave Wheeler, and Coach, let's jump right into it. I know I'm catching you between, it seems like you're practicing all the time, but I wanted to ask you about practices, off-season. You've done this, you've been a football lifer. How is this different as being a head coach on a high school level, as far as off-season, different from the others that you've had?
The off-season stuff, it's the same, just from the standpoint, every place I've been, I've always been the strength and conditioning coach, so I've always ran the off-season. Even going back to when I first got here with Coach Dawson, we were, it's one of those things where I was in charge of it, and really, he never asked me what we were doing or what, he just let me run it.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as that goes, it's pretty much what I've always been doing. I knew kind of the direction I wanted to take it. I knew what we needed to do to start changing culture here and to start putting our kids in a positive frame of mind. And to learn how to handle negative situations, learn how to handle adversity. So the off-season part was pretty simple as far as just the implementation of that.
What has been the biggest change that you've seen since last we spoke, since you've been here and the kids?
Probably just I see a difference from January to March. I saw a difference in just learning how to handle adversity. And then February, March, April, I started to see our kids start to compete, and not just compete, but compete with a will and a mission. In a lot of our Friday morning competition stuff, and from that standpoint, that was really good to see, because that's always the one that usually takes the longest for kids to adjust to and to jump all in on. But this group really did that pretty fast. I was pleased with how well we handled that and the transition of it. And then through spring ball, once we started transitioning towards spring ball, I knew hiring the coaches that we hired and how late we hired guys. Offensive coordinator didn't get here till April, and three of our other offensive coaches, all of them came, late in the spring or right after spring ball. So it was really good for our kids, as far as I thought they did a great job of handling, hey, this is what we're going to put in, this is what we want you to be able to run. I thought they adapted to that pretty well, especially through spring ball. But team camps in summer, in June, was where I saw them really starting to understand concept stuff of what we're trying to do offensively. And I saw some good things at the team camp at Greenwood, and I saw some good things when we went down to J.D. Plumley's group down there, South Arkansas. I thought that was also a really good day for us as far as just team camp stuff. And then this summer, we came back in July. The adversity stuff that I put them through to see how they'd handle real adversity as far as I can push them, I thought our kids handled that very well. I was pretty excited to see the number of kids that understood that, hey, there's going to be times it may make you dizzy, it may make you throw up, but you just throw up and come right back, and they jump right back in and finished everything that they started. And that to me is a good sign that the kids are buying into what we're doing, knowing that adversity is going to hit them, but they're going to fight their way through it.
In May at a baseball game, I talked to 4 of your kids, and they all talked about how tough the practices were, but how much they loved it. I mean, to a man, all 4 of them said that.
Right, and spring ball, it was weird. We had set dates for scrimmages, practice number 4 and practice number 7, whatever. And it was amazing how it worked out. Every time we scrimmaged, it poured down rain. I mean, poured down rain. And, of course, we got this great indoor in here. It's a fantastic indoor, but we never used it. We stayed out there in the rain.
Wow.
And practiced right through it. And that was, to me, seeing those kids not flinch, not wonder why we're not going inside and look around or make excuses for a bad snap or a bad ball, whatever, just to fight through was a great thing to see. And that's why I did it. I'm not going to come in here. I want to see our kids handle adversity. And I thought that from a standpoint of learning how to handle adversity, I couldn't ask the weather to do anything better than what it did. It was amazing. Every time we scrimmaged, it just poured down rain. But it was good. It was good for our kids to see adversity, because that happens in the fall. There's times, there's things that are out of your control. What are you going to do when things are out of your control? What are you going to handle? You can only handle things that you can control. And that's one of those teaching moments there last spring that I thought our kids learned from and have grown from.
I'm supposed to only ask you about Cyclone football, but I want to ask one question about Northwest Missouri, because you come from a football powerhouse. What have you – because you've had success everywhere you go.
Yeah.
Have you implemented anything that you learned back then being there?
I'll tell you, when I played there, we weren't as powerful. We made it to the playoffs one of my sophomore junior year, but it was after I left. My younger brother, who was still there, got to play for Mel Churchman, the guy that really engineered that whole turnaround program and turned it into what it is today. But I did go back several times and watch spring ball and to visit with Coach Churchman and Coach Boswick and Coach Doral and those guys. And what I learned probably more than anything else from Northwest, one of the cornerstones to what he always talked about with success is something that I've implemented here from the first time I was here back in 15 was I want our kids to coach each other. Players coaching players is one of my three cornerstones or triangle of what I consider to be a great football program. And if you get kids to coach each other, and I'm not talking about cheering and cheerleading and come on, clapping your hands. I'm talking about actually coaching fundamentals, coaching technique, talking about where your hand placement is, where your eye is supposed to be, your stance, footwork, different things like that, how to run a route. When you get kids that are doing that, number one, that kid has the confidence to know he knows exactly what he's doing. Otherwise, he wouldn't say anything to another kid if he doesn't know what he's talking about. So from a standpoint as far as learning the game of football, I think it teaches guys more when you coach a position than it does when you just play a position. But two, it also builds confidence with each other, and it builds a sense of chemistry that you can trust that guy next to you. Because it takes a lot for a 16, 17-year-old kid to say something to a peer, to one of his teammates, that he's doing something wrong or needs to correct something. It takes a lot of guts to do that. Mm-hmm. But it also takes a lot of guts to listen to him and to adjust and to try and learn from it and not to take it personal. And I think from both standpoints on that, I think that's probably the biggest thing that helped us in the 15-16 season, between 15 and 16, was the amount of just the emotional and the structural maturity of that team was huge. And our kids, they coached each other all the time, and they were very coachable. They were coachable from the standpoint of listening to the guy that was talking to them and listening to what he was telling them, and they're also great at just, hey, they would see something and they would say something. You know, that's one of those national slogans about, terrorism stuff, see something, say something. Mm-hmm. Our kids, when they see something, they said something, and they fixed it. And that's what we're trying to install here. And it's, it's a slow process. It takes a long time to get kids to be comfortable doing that. But these guys are starting to pick that up, and I'm starting to see that here and there in places, and it's great to see. But that was one of the cornerstones that Coach Churchman taught me. When I went up and asked him, when I watched spring ball, I asked him how are they able to turn the program around. He talked about that being one. As a matter of fact, my brother's class, his senior class, was the first ones that did it. But that was a big thing for him up there.
Anytime a new coach comes in, there's turnover even with the current coach with your assistants. But can you just talk about your assistant coaches and who does what?
Sure. Well, we had from the previous staff that was here, of course, Coach Goodman, who's been here a long time and is a Russellville Cyclone himself. Means a lot to him, this program. He's had, now his second son's going to be a senior, so he's had two already through the program. Has been here for, I'm not even sure, I think 18, 19 years, something like that. And he's our corners coach, coaches our DBs, and does a really good job. He's also the head track coach. And he's also our equipment guy, handles all of our equipment stuff. Everything. So, the good thing for me is Coach Goodman's here. I don't have to worry about stuff that normal head coaches worry about, and make sure you got the right number of socks and all that. I don't worry about any of that. I just ask Ben what we need, and he just gets it done. Coach Correa is also here from the past. Coach Correa has been here a long time as well. I think he's been here 17, 18, 19 years. He's coaching our safeties, coaching what we call the triangle, the three in the middle, and does a really good job. Coach Correa is very smart, very, very football smart, understands things, really gets concepts well, can make some really good suggestions on what we should and shouldn't do defensively, and really helps me out. But he was here before in the 16 season too, as well, those 2 years there. So, and then Coach Guerra, who was here last year as the D-line coach. I moved into linebackers, but he's been here, I think, 2 years now. This will be his third. He does a really good job as far as just, again, he's a fundamentally sound guy. He played at OBU, coached at OBU, coached at high school where he's from. So he's gotten both college and high school experience, so he brings something to the table from that standpoint. On the offensive side of the ball, Coach Clark, Ty Clark, is a guy I hired that is a former Cyclone himself. He played here in high school, and back in '07, I think, is when he graduated. And he has bounced around a couple different places, coached at Warren, coached at Marion, and then he was the head coach at Paris for the last couple of years. And, last year they went 11-2. I think that's the most success Paris had in a long time in football, and did a great job there. So I hired him back to come back here to Russellville. He was excited about getting a chance to come home and be our offensive coordinator and install what we're doing now offensively. Then I hired, in order, I guess I hired Coach Hood, Braden Hood, who came from Warren, was the O-line coach there. I hired him to be our centers and guards coach, and he does a great job with those guys. He is a former offensive lineman himself, was a team captain at Harding University, former Nashville high school scrapper, played for Coach Dawson back in the day. So I knew he came from a tough tree. That dude's, Harding is a very physical, fundamentally tough people at Harding University, how they play football with the option. So I knew he'd bring some toughness to the table, and he's got some obviously he's got some youth to him. He just got here. I think it's his third year coaching or second year coaching in high school, but he's a fundamentally sound guy that played the position, that understands it, does a good job. And then we hired Coach Tyler Kell, whose wife is girls basketball coach here. But Coach came here and has done a great job with our tight ends and tackles. So he's coaching the outside guys on the O-line, and Coach Hood's coaching the inside guys. But Coach Kell was at Smackover, and he's been in a couple places as well. But he's a former Nashville scrapper as well, played for Coach Dawson. And he played at Arkansas Tech University. He was a 3-year starter at Arkansas Tech. So under Coach Mullins, and so I know that tree as well because I coached with Coach Mullins. So I know if you played O-line there, you're a tough guy. I mean, he's tough on O-linemen. He's going to make guys tough, and he played for Billy down in Nashville, so I know he's got some toughness to him as well. So from that standpoint, I think we've made our offensive line tougher, and I think we're seeing some results out there in the last scrimmage even that we're starting to run the ball better. I think that's just coming from an aggressive mental standpoint up front. I think we're starting to become more aggressive and more physical up front on the offensive line. I think that's a direct reflection of those two guys. But and then we hired Coach Michael Mullen. Michael had been volunteering here as he was finishing his college degree the last couple of years. And Michael is our starting linebacker on the 2016 team that won the state championship, and just comes from good people. Got a good family. They're Cyclones all the way. He loves this place just like the other coaches that played here, and I think he'll do a great job. We hired him to coach wide receivers, and Michael has a great concept of understanding concepts of offense. He played quarterback his sophomore and junior year. I think he's cerebral when it comes to offense and understanding what we can do, what works against what coverages and what doesn't, and those type of things. And he helps Coach Clark formulate game plans in the passing game. So, but it's his first year of real coaching, but he's been a volunteer for the last several years, so he's been around it. He understands it, and he understands culture the way I coach it and the way I want it because he played for us in the 14, 15, 16 team. So he knows what we're looking for here, which is a great thing too. So those are the guys that are with us on the varsity.
This will be the 92nd meeting between Russellville and Morrilton. Russellville's never played anybody more than that. This will take over the series. You've been a part of it before. I don't know if it feels like a rivalry. Does it feel like that way to you or to the kids?
I don't know. With the kids, I don't know how to answer that for them. I think that's each maybe different. I don't know. It's weird, in the old days, rivalries were, something everybody talked about. And I don't know whether it's just the way the game has changed or that there's so many games on TV, or I don't know. But I just feel like that there's a disconnect in not just high school football but college football, to where you don't have the rivalries don't seem like they mean as much. Mm-hmm. And I think it's because part of it is people don't play each other like they used to all the time. Like, for example, there's very few teams that still have, like you're talking about, a 92-year run. I mean, there's very few teams that still have that long of a run. Mm-hmm. But the ones that do they are true rivals. The Alabama, Auburn, Ole Miss, Mississippi State. The Arkansas, LSU. I think there's some games that there are, but for the most part, those, for example, the Arkansas, Texas used to be a huge rivalry, and it went away for years. And so, is it really a rivalry when they start playing each other once again? I think they lose that. So, from the standpoint of a long time playing against each other, I'd say yes, there's a rivalry between Russellville and Morrilton. But because they're not in the same class we are, they're a different classification. It doesn't mean anything when it comes to playoffs. It's the first game. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it's a big rivalry to people or not. I think people in town think it is. I think there's people in both towns that think it's a big rivalry because they grew up with that rivalry,
right,
which to me is a good thing. But I just don't know if it holds that same for the younger generation as it does for the older generation.
I'll ask you one question about Morrilton. They typically, under Coach McNabb, has been a 3-4 team. They blitz a lot. That's kind of has been their MO. Is that what they do? You think this year?
As far as I know, I mean, because the defense coordinator went to Elkins, so Cody told me he's taking back over the reins of calling defense. So I assume he's going to do what he always does. He's going to bring pressure from all over the place and run his 3-4 stuff and play a lot of man coverage or match man, that type of thing, which is what he's always done. Of course, Coach McNabb, he coached for me at Tech when I was defense coordinator for a year. He was defensive back coach, so me and him go way back. But he's a good ball coach. They have a toughness to them. They're a gritty, tough group that just plays hard every snap from start to finish. And I think that's a direct reflection of his personality. That's kind of the way he was when he coached for me, and so I think that's going to be the way they play.
One more question: have you gotten tired of people asking you why you coming back? Why Russellville? Why here?
Well, yeah, people ask me different ways that they ask me, but I always thought that this was a good place. I thought it was a great place when I coached at Tech. I liked the town. I always thought this had a good setup to it, had a good feel. Plus, out of all the places when I coached college ball in those 22 years coaching college, I've coached it, I can't even remember, I think 9 different places, but I mean, I've been all over the country. And when I got to Tech, I really fell in love with Arkansas. Arkansas has been my favorite state that I've lived in. And so when I got a chance to come back and coach at UCA, I was pretty excited about it. And then when things fell through there, long story, but it doesn't matter. But I got a chance I decided I was going to stay in Arkansas. If I was going to coach high school, which is what I decided I wanted to try, I was going to do it in Arkansas. I wanted to stay here. I just like the people here. I think it's a great state. I think it's a great place to be. It's one of the friendliest places I know. I mean, just people are just better. They're just friendly here. They're just good people in the state of Arkansas, especially Russellville and this town. So coming back down here from Northwest Arkansas, I was hoping that one day to get an opportunity to be the head coach here again. I really like it here. I loved it when I was here before, and when it opened up and got a chance to come back, I was pretty excited about coming back. So
it's a new era for Cyclone football under Coach Dave Whelan. We invite everybody out to as Russellville will play host to Morrilton this Friday night.